Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dita Sintyawati and I'm majoring in English Literature. I'm from B class 5th semester.
Congratulations to the class of
Selamat
2020.
untuk kelas 2020.
Some of you have graduated
Beberapa kalian
already.
sudah lulus.
Some of you still have finals. All of you should be
Kalian
very
semua pasti
proud.
bangga.
Graduation is a big achievement under any
Wisuda adalah
circumstances.
pencapaian yang besar
Yours comes as the world is turned
pada
upside
saat
down
kalian dunia
by a
sedang
pandemic
berbalik
and
oleh
by a
pandemi
country that's been swept up by
dan negara yang
protests.
dilanda protes.
I can barely imagine how head spinning these last few months
Saya
have been
hampir
for
tidak
you.
bisa membayangkan betapa
Just
pusingnya
as
kalian
winter was
semua
thawing and you were thinking
di
about
akhir-akhir
spring
ini.
break, those of you who were away at college were either
Anda
whisked
yang
home
tidak
or
kuliah diajak
stayed behind
pulang
on a shuttered campus.
atau di
Most of you
kampus yang
had to
tertutup.
finish semesters online,
Sebagian
which
besar
had its ups and
menyelesaikan
downs.
semester secara
You didn't have to
online.
worry about what you wore to class, but watching your teachers
Kalian
and
tidak perlu
professors try to work
khawatir
Zoom
tentang apa
wasn't
yang
always
kalian
pretty
kenakan di
either.
kelas, tetapi
Either
melihat
way,
guru dan profesor
none of
mencoba
this
menggunakan
is
Zoom
how
adalah
any of you
sesuatu yang
imagine
tidak selalu
finishing your
berjalan
final
bagus.
spring at school. Now, even if we can't all gather in person, I want you to
Meskipun kita
remember
tidak bisa
that
berkumpul
a
secara
graduation
langsung,
ceremony doesn't celebrate just a moment in time.
hal yang harus
It's the
Anda ketahui
culmination of
bahwa
all
upacara
your years of
kelulusan
learning
tidak hanya merayakan
about the
saat.
world and about
Ini
yourself.
adalah tentang
The
pencapaian kalian
friends and
semua
family
dan
who
apa
supported
yang
you every
dan
step of
ini
the way,
tentang
they
kalian
aren't
sendiri.
celebrating a piece of
Teman dan
paper.
keluarga mendukung
They're celebrating
setiap
you,
langkah dari kalian.
how you've
Mereka
grown,
tidak
the challenges you've
merayakan
overcome,
selembar kertas,
and the
tapi
experiences
merayakan
you've shared.
kelulusan kalian semua.
You can see that love in all the amazing ways that families have come up with their own at-home graduations, from drive-by parades to handmade yard signs. The
Intinya
point
adalah,
is, don't let the lack of a big, crowded
jangan
ceremony
biarkan kurangnya
take anything
kesibukan besar
away from
mengurangi
what your
apapun
graduation
dari
signifies.
arti
Go ahead
kelulusan
and
kalian
bask in the
sendiri.
glory of your achievement.
Silahkan nikmati
And wherever
kelulusan
you are,
kalian.
take lots of photos. Although,
Dimanapun kalian
when
berada,
I look at
ambillah
my
banyak
graduation
foto.
pictures, the main thing I realize is that
Dan
I should have
saya
gotten
merasa
a haircut
bahwa
more
saya
often.
seharusnya lebih sering
Now, as
potong
was
rambut
true
pada
for
saat
generations
foto
before
kelulusan
you,
saya.
graduation marks your final passage into adulthood, the time when you're expected to fully take charge of your life's direction.
Waktu ketika Anda
when you get to
diharapkan untuk
decide what's
sepenuhnya
important to
mengendalikan
you.
arah hidup Anda.
The career you want
Saat
to pursue,
itulah Anda harus
the values
memutuskan
you want
apa
to
yang
live
penting
by,
bagi kalian,
who you want to build a family with.
karir yang
That can
ingin
be
kalian kejar,
intimidating even
dan
under
dengan
normal
siapa
circumstances.
kalian ingin
And
membangunnya.
given the current state of things, let's face it can be downright scary. It's fair to say that your generation is graduating into a world that faces more
Dapat
profound
dikatakan bahwa
challenges
generasi
than any
kalian sedang menuju
generation in
dunia yang
decades.
menghadapi tantangan yang
It
lebih
can feel
besar.
like everything's up for grabs right
Rasanya
now.
semua bisa
A lot of this
diperebutkan.
uncertainty is the direct result of COVID-19.
Banyak ketidakpastian
The
akibat dari
100,000
COVID-19,
lives it's taken from us, the economic
yang
disruption
mana
it's caused.
100.000 nyawa telah
No
direnggut.
one can say for sure how much longer the crisis will last. A lot of that will
Tidak ada
depend
yang
on the
tahu
choices we make as
berapa
a country.
lama krisis ini berlangsung.
But, it will eventually end.
Tapi ini akan segera
Vaccines and
berlangsung.
treatments will emerge. The economy will
Vaksin dan
begin
juga
to
perawatan
heal
akan
and
segera
life will start
muncul,
returning to normal.
ekonomi akan segera
And
pulih.
you'll still have your whole life ahead of you.
Kalian
The
masih
thing is,
memiliki
class of
seluruh
2020, what these
masa
past
depan
few weeks
kalian.
have also shown us is that the challenges we face go well beyond the
Tantangan yang
virus.
kita hadapi
And
lebih
that
dari
the old
virus.
normal wasn't good enough. It wasn't working that well.
Dan itu tidak
In a lot of
akan
ways,
berjalan
the
dengan baik.
pandemic just brought into focus problems that have been growing for a very long time. Whether it's widening economic inequality, the lack of basic health care for millions
Pandemi
of
membawa
people,
kita ke
the
masalah
continuing scourge of
dalam waktu
bigotry
yang sangat
and
lama,
sexism,
yaitu melebarnya
or the
ketimpangan
divisions and
ekonomi,
dysfunction that
kurangnya
plague
perawatan
our political
kesehatan,
system.
dan
Similarly, the protests in response to the
perpecahan
killing of George
yang
Floyd
mengganggu
and
sistem
Breonna Taylor
politik.
and Ahmaud Arbery and Nina Pop aren't simply a
Begitupun ada
reaction to those
protes
particular
tentang pembunuhan
tragedies,
George
as
dan
heartbreaking as they
Breonna
are.
Taylor.
They speak to decades worth of anguish and frustration over unequal treatment and a failure to reform police practices and the broader criminal justice system. These shocks to the system that we're seeing right now,
Guncangan pada
just
sistem
as you
kita saat
prepare to
ini,
go out into the world, they remind us that we can't take
sama
things for
seperti kita
granted.
bersiap untuk pergi ke
We have to
dunia,
work to make
yang
things better.
mengingatkan kita bahwa kita
They
tidak
remind
dapat
us that
menerima
our
begitu saja.
individual well-being depend on the well-being of the community that we live in.
Mereka
And it doesn't
mengingatkan
matter
kita
how much
bahwa
money you
kesejahteraan
make
individu
if
kita
everyone around you is
bergantung pada
hungry and sick.
kesejahteraan komunitas tempat
It reminds
kita
you that our
tinggal.
country and our democracy only function when we think not just about ourselves, but also about each other. So, as scary and uncertain as these times may be, They are also a
Seseram
wake-up call,
apapun saat ini
and they're an
merupakan
incredible
peringatan dan
opportunity
juga
for your generation.
kesempatan bagi generasi kita.
Because you don't have to accept what was considered normal before.
Karena kalian tidak harus
You don't have to
menerima
accept the world
apa
as it
yang
is.
sebelumnya dianggap normal.
You can make it into the world as it should be and could be.
Kalian
You can
tidak bisa
create a
menerima
new normal,
apa
one
adanya
that is
ini.
fairer and gives everybody opportunity and treats everyone equally and builds bridges between people instead of dividing them. Just as America overcame slavery and civil war, recessions and depression, Pearl Harbor and 9/11, and all kinds of social
Semua
upheaval,
pergejolakan
we can
sosial,
emerge from our current
kita muncul
circumstances
dari keadaan
stronger
kita saat ini.
than before, better than
Lebih
before.
kuat dari sebelumnya dan lebih baik
But
dari
as has
sebelumnya.
always been true at key moments in history, it's going to depend on young people like you to go out there and rewrite what is possible. I'll admit
Saya
that
akui
it's a
bahwa
little unfair to lay such a heavy burden on you.
sedikit tidak
I
adil
wish
untuk
that my
memberikan
generation
beban
had
yang
done more to
begitu berat
solve
kepada
some of our
kalian.
country's big problems, so you didn't have to.
Saya berharap generasi
But the
saya
good news
telah
is that I
berbuat
know
lebih
you're up
banyak
to the
untuk
challenge.
menyelesaikan beberapa masalah
You are
dari
the
negara
best
kita.
educated generation
Jadi,
in
kalian
history
tidak perlu
and a whole lot more
melakukannya.
technologically savvy. You've been exposed to more knowledge and perspectives than my generation ever was. You're more tolerant,
Kalian lebih toleran,
empathetic,
berempati,
entrepreneurial, environmentally
sadar
conscious.
lingkungan.
Even before graduation,
sebelum
many of you
lulus,
have already started to make your mark,
banyak dari
feeding
kalian
the
sudah
hungry,
mulai
mentoring
menunjukkan
kids,
prestasi.
fighting racial injustice, helping veterans,
Memberi makan
battling
yang
climate
lapar,
change.
membimbing anak-anak.
And now, to see so many of you participating in peaceful
Dan
protest,
sekarang, melihat
to see
begitu
so
banyak
many
dari
of
Anda
you of
berpartisipasi
every
dalam
race and
protes
background
damai,
raise up your
dan
voices
melihat
on
begitu
behalf of
banyak dari
justice
Anda
for
dari
all.
setiap ras dan latar
Well,
belakang,
it's been
angkat suara atas
unbelievably
keadilan
inspiring.
semua.
You make me optimistic about our future. So as you prepare for the next stage of what I know will be a remarkable journey, I'll leave you with a few quick pieces of advice for what they're worth.
Saya akan
First,
meninggalkan beberapa
do what you
nasihat
think is
singkat.
right,
Yang pertama,
not just
lakukan
what's
apa yang menurut
convenient or what's
kalian benar,
expected or what's
bukan
easy.
apa yang nyaman
While
atau
you
yang
have this
diharapkan.
Think about the values that matter to you the most.
Kalian punya waktu.
Too many
Pikirkan
graduates who
tentang
feel
nilai-nilai yang
the
paling
pressure to
penting bagi kalian.
immediately start running that race for success skip the step of asking themselves what's really important. And too often they end up as
Tanyakan pada
adults
diri
who
sendiri
only
bahwa
do
apa
what's
yang
good for
sebenarnya
them
penting.
and say to
Dan
heck
terlalu
with
sering
everybody else,
mereka
and they end
berakhir
up
sebagai orang dewasa yang hanya
not having a lot
melakukan apa
of
yang baik untuk
meaningful
mereka.
relationships or not really feeling as if they made a serious contribution to the world. I hope
Saya berharap
that instead you decide to
sebaliknya
moor
kalian
yourself
memutuskan
in values that last,
untuk mendapatkan
like
diri
responsibility,
pada nilai-nilai yang
fairness,
bertahan lama,
generosity, and respect
seperti
for
tanggung
others.
jawab, keadilan,
That will make you
kemurahan
part of the
hati, dan rasa
solution
hormat kepada
instead of
orang
part of
lain.
the problem. And if experience is any guide, it actually makes for a happier
Dan
life.
jika pengalaman adalah panduan,
Second,
dan itulah sebenarnya
listen to
yang
each
membuat
other,
hidup kalian lebih bangga.
respect each
Yang
other,
kedua,
and
dengarkan
use all
satu
that
sama lain
critical
dan
thinking you've
saling
developed
menghormati.
from your education to help promote the truth. You are the internet generation and the social media generation. It's not just how you shop or listen to music or watch videos. It's part of your social lives.
Bagian dari
It's the new
kehidupan
town
kalian.
square where you all come together and
Ini
meet.
adalah alun-alun kota baru.
In many ways, it's
tempat
been an amazing
Anda
tool.
untuk berkumpul dengan
In your
dan
pockets,
bertemu.
you have access to more information than any group of people in history. It's allowed movements of like-minded people to mobilize on behalf of worthy causes. But what's become clear is that social media can also be a tool to spread
Sosial
conflict,
media juga bisa menjadi
division,
alat untuk
and falsehoods,
menyebabkan konflik,
to bully people,
kebohongan,
and promote
dan
hate.
perpecahan.
Too often, it shuts us
Untuk
off from each
menindas
other instead of bringing us together,
kebencian.
partly because it gives us the ability to select our own realities, independent of facts or science or logic or common sense. We start reading only news and opinions that reinforce our
Kami
own
mulai
biases.
membaca berita
We
dan
start
opini
canceling
yang
everything else out.
memperkuat bias
We
kita
let
sendiri.
opinion masquerade as fact, and we treat even the wildest
Kami membiarkan
conspiracy
opini
theories as
menyamar
worthy
sebagai
of
fakta.
consideration.
Dan
And the
memperlakukan
irony
teori
is that
konspirasi
usually the
paling
people
liar
who are
sekalipun
peddling
layak
falsehoods
untuk
on the internet
dipertimbangkan.
or social media are doing so for their own purposes, either to sell you something or distract you from the real issues that matter. You can change
Kamu
that.
bisa mengubah itu.
If a friend tells you COVID-19
Jika
is a
seorang
hoax,
memberitahu
politely
bahwa
correct
COVID-19
them.
adalah tipuan,
If an older relative cites some video to promote a
perbaikilah dengan
racist
sopan.
stereotype,
Jika seorang
show him or her
kerabat lebih
why
tua
that video is a shame.
melihat beberapa video untuk
As a
mempromosikan
generation that
stereotip
understands social
rasis,
media and
tunjukkan
technology a
kepadanya
lot better
mengapa
than
video
anyone,
itu palsu.
it's going to be up to you to create online cultures and communities that respect differences of opinion and freedom of speech, and also restore the kind of honest, informed, fact-based debate that is the
Dan juga
starting
memulihkan
point
jenis
for
debat yang
tackling the
jujur,
challenges we
terinformasi,
face.
dan berdasarkan fakta yang merupakan titik awal
Finally,
untuk mengatasi
even
tantangan
if
yang kita
it all
hadapi.
seems broken,
Akhirnya,
have faith
meski
in
semuanya
our
fakta
democracy.
merupakan titik
Participate
awal untuk mengatasi
and vote.
tantangan yang kita
Don't
hadapi.
fall for the easy cynicism that says nothing can change, or that there's
Jangan
only
tertipu
one
dengan
way
sikap sinis
to
yang
bring about
mengatakan
change.
bahwa tidak ada yang bisa berubah.
In the midst of recent
Atau hanya ada
protests,
satu
I've
cara untuk
noticed that there have been some debates
menghasilkan
among
perubahan.
young people about how useful voting is compared to direct action and civil disobedience in ending discrimination in our society. The fact
Faktanya,
is, we don't have to
kita tidak harus
choose,
memilih.
we need both.
kita
Peaceful
membutuhkan
protests and
dua-duanya.
demonstrations are
Protes dan
patriotic. They
demonstrasi
shine a
damai
light on
bersifat
injustice.
patriotik.
They raise public awareness. They make the folks in charge uncomfortable in a way that's healthy. After all, we're a nation that was founded on protest. Eventually, though,
Pada
your
akhirnya,
aspirations have to be translated
harus
into
diterjemahkan ke
specific
dalam
laws
hukum
and
dan
institutional
praktik
practices.
kelembagaan
And that only happens when we
dan
elect
itu
good
hanya
people
terjadi
at every
ketika
level
kita
who are
memilih orang-orang
responsive
yang
to our
baik di
demands.
sekitar kita.
And that includes local offices like the Office of Mayor or the
Termasuk
Office of District Attorney
seperti kantor
that don't
lokal
get
atau
as
kantor
much
wali kota
attention
atau
as a
kejaksaan.
presidential race, but have the most direct impact on issues like how communities are policed. In fact, you don't even have to be an activist to make a contribution to our democracy. If you've always dreamed of starting your own business, go build a company
Jika Anda
that
selalu
is a
bermimpi
model
untuk
for
memulai
paying
bisnis
its
sendiri,
workers a fair
bangunlah
wage.
perusahaan sendiri.
If you've dreamed always of being a doctor,
Jika kalian
think
adalah
about working in a
jika
community
kalian
that's
bermimpi
short on
sebagai
doctors.
dokter, pikirkan tentang
There are
bekerja di
so
komunitas
many
yang
ways to
kekurangan
serve.
dokter.
The important
Ada
thing
banyak
is
cara
to
untuk
recognize that
melayani.
this nation needs your talents, your passions, your
Yang
voice
terpenting adalah menyadari
to make it
bahwa
better.
bangsa ini, negara ini membutuhkan
You know, it's
bakat dan minat
not always
kalian.
pretty, this democracy of ours. Trust me, I know. It can be loud and
Ini bisa
messy
menjadi keras
and sometimes
dan
depressing.
berantakan, dan
But
terkadang
because
membuat depresi.
citizens took seriously the mandate that this is a government of and by and for the people, well, bit by bit, generation by
Sedikit
generation,
demi sedikit,
we've made
generasi ke
progress.
generasi
From cleaning
membuat
up our air
sebuah
and water,
kemajuan,
to creating programs that lifted
membersihkan
millions of
udara dan
seniors out
air,
of poverty,
hingga
to winning the
menciptakan
right to
program
vote,
yang mengangkat jutaan
and
senior
to marry who you love.
keluar dari kemiskinan.
None of these changes happened overnight or without sustained effort. But they did happen, usually because young people marched and organized and voted and formed alliances and just led good lives and looked after their community and their families and their neighborhoods
Keluarga mereka,
and
lingkungan
slowly
mereka,
changed hearts and minds.
perlahan-lahan mulai
America
berubah
changed
pikiran.
Has always
Mereka
changed
selalu berubah dan
because
akan
young
selalu
people
berubah
dared
karena
to
anak
hope.
muda punya
Democracy isn't
harapan.
about relying on some charismatic leader to make changes from on high. It's about finding hope in ourselves and creating it in
Ini
others.
tentang menemukan harapan dalam
especially in
diri
a time
kita
like
dan
this.
menciptakannya kepada orang lain.
You don't always need hope when everything's going fine. It's when things seem darkest. That's when you need it the most. Now, someone once said, hope is not a lottery
Seorang pernah
ticket.
berkata, harapan
It's a
bukanlah
hammer
tiket
for us to
lotre.
use in a national emergency, to break the
Itu
glass,
palu untuk
sound
kita
the
gunakan
alarm,
dalam
and
keadaan
sprint
darurat.
into action.
Untuk memecahkan kaca.
That's what hope is. It's not the blind faith that things will get better. It's the conviction that with effort and perseverance and courage and a concern for others, things can get better. That
Segala
remains
yang
the
bisa menjadi
truest
lebih
part
baik.
of our American story.
Itu menjadi bagian
And
paling
if your
benar dari
generation
cerita Amerika.
sprints into action, it will still be true of
Dan
America's
jika
future.
generasi Anda segera bertindak,
Congratulations,
itu akan
class
tetap
of
berlaku
2020.
untuk masa depan.
Make it mean
Selamat atas
something
angkatan
and keep
2020
making us proud.
Jadikan itu berarti dan
Thank
tetap
you.
buat menganggap.
Wassalamualaikum
Terima kasih.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.